Tottenham 4, Newcastle United 1, and that's the second thumping that we've had in a week. Now, everyone knows, it's mentioned about 10 different times. I heard that watching the match there, that it's because of the fatigue and stuff like that. It definitely is, but what it could be doing is this could have long-term implications for Newcastle. In my opinion, confidence is going to be pretty much on the deck now. Suffered a bad defeat at Everton. I was there midweek, and now we've just shipped another 4 goals in. So that's 7 goals shipped in the matter of a week, and we have a crucial game coming on Wednesday to define where we're going to go. Champions League, Europa, or if it's just going to be the group stage and out. So this is really not the results that you wanted going into that absolutely crucial tie. A lot of the players' confidence will be on the deck. You could see it performing there. You can see fatigue kicked in quite early in my opinion today. I was there at Everton around about half time, 50 minutes. Like I called before the match, that's when you kind of start to see the fatigue kicking in. You're probably going to see it again on Wednesday. You could see here there was some substitutions used, but I want to kind of touch on a few of the substitutions because going into this match, you knew a lot of the Newcastle players were absolutely knackered and on the floor. Was it a case of put a weaker team out with substitutions and give some players the rest for the crucial match that's going to be on Wednesday, or do we play them and run them into the ground? He's played his strongest team. The team pretty much does pick itself. You've got Matt Ritchie, who's coming up to almost being finished at Newcastle. You've got all the youth players who I don't think Eddie Howe has a ton of confidence in compared to his starting 11, which is understandable. Every single manager in the Premier League is going to have that. It's a big ask, let alone for Lewis Miley. He's come out with it with flying colours every single game. He's been impressive. But a lot of the other youngsters, I don't think he's too impressed with Eddie Howe. I wanted to touch a little bit on Lewis Hall. Now, when we signed him from Chelsea, I thought he was going to be one of the ones to watch this season. It turns out he didn't really get a lot of game time. It seems Livramento is ahead of him in the pecking order, and he's just reluctant to fetch him on at all. Watching him there, I wasn't too impressed with him. I know it's a big ask. You're 19, you're being chucked into a cauldron when everyone's legs are on the floor, the confidence is on the floor, a lot of passes and everything, a lot of silly mistakes happening. It's a big ask for, I think he's a 19-year-old kid as well, to come in. Now, one of the things I'm going to touch on as well, that probably a lot of you will disagree with this, because a lot of people will just look at the goals shipped in and just think, oh, well, it's keeper, defence, everything terrible. I thought Dubravka there had an okay game, considering he shipped 4 goals in. From my reading of the play, he kept a hold of a lot of balls that come in that if he'd have dropped, a Tottenham player was first there to have an easy tap in. I counted at least 2 of them, probably 3 as well. On the balance of play, that could have been 5, 6 or 7. I know they hit the bar, the post. I know Son had one as well when he was coming in as well at the far post. If he'd have just angled that a little bit better, that could have been one. Positive-wise, there's not really a lot for Newcastle to take out of that, in all honesty. Obviously, there was the goal by Joelinton. On the balance of play, they should have been down to 10 men. And I'm taking my Newcastle cap off when I say that. That was definitely a red card in my opinion. Would it have changed the nature of the game? Would it have changed the scoreline? Not really. It was the damage had already been done by then. There wasn't a lot that Newcastle could have done. But now Newcastle have to go in to Wednesday and try to get some sort of performance. He's had most of them players playing. Most of them have played all the match, but a lot of them got taken off around the hour mark as well. So you'd imagine they're going to be suffering as well. That's an hour intense game that they've played again. Now they have to go into this game on Wednesday with no confidence. Newcastle fans, I'm curious from you guys. Firstly, how did you see that match as well? How would you analyse that game as well? And how confident are you now going into Wednesday? I did say this a few weeks ago. I know, again, it's going to be controversial. I would rather go into Europa than the Champions League. I don't know if I speak on the majority of Geordies, because I know Newcastle fans want this first elusive bit of trophy, bit of silverware. You stand much more chance of doing that in the Europa than you do in the Champions League. If I'm being neutral, you can't imagine Newcastle are going to win the Champions League, whether we had a full strength squad or whatever. It's far too early in the progression, the evolution of Newcastle to realistically expect that. But the Europa League, if we'd have had a few more bodies fit, you'd quite fancy the chances for Newcastle winning that if the draws had been a bit kind to us. We've seen, obviously, you'll have seen a lot of European football yourselves if you're football followers. The standard is very much mix and match with that. The competition on a whole, for a good side, that is a winnable competition to win. Obviously, it's knockout later on. You get with the knockout competition, it is a little bit of luck on your side. You will need a bit of the draw, a bit of luck with the draw as well, but that could be a realistic route, not only to the first bit of silverware for Newcastle under the new owners, but it could also be another route into the Champions League. Obviously, Newcastle have got a taste of Champions League now. The owners, we know, want to be Champions League every single season, even though this last year was a little bit ahead of schedule, and winning the Europa League could be an easy way into that, considering it doesn't look at this point like Newcastle are going to qualify for the Champions League. It's very, very early in the season. A lot can change. Obviously, we're going to get a lot of bodies back. What Newcastle really could use right now is an international break. Now, I hate international football. Premier League every week for me. Cannot stand the stuff. Don't really get excited about watching England play. But Newcastle United could use this international break almost like no other team, get a few more bodies back. Obviously, we've seen Callum Wilson come back. We've seen Sean Longstaff on the bench as well. We're going to need a lot more bodies than that as well. I know a few are coming back. You've got Harvey Barnes, who's due to come back soon. You've got Botman, who's absolutely crucial to our defence. In my opinion, he's our best player. I absolutely rate the guy so highly. We need these bodies back, and we need them sooner rather than later, just to kind of turn the ship round a little bit at Newcastle. So getting back on what I was saying earlier, how would you analyse the game today? How would you analyse that performance? What do you think it's going to do for our confidence going into Wednesday? And then realistically, what are your hopes for on Wednesday? Obviously, we'll go in, fingers crossed, hoping that we can clutch a win and keep the Champions League dream alive. But how do you see that going? Obviously, we are a little bit reliant on other results as well. And how do you see this point up until the January transfer window going? Do you think recent performances will mean that Newcastle have to dip into the January transfer market, either a little bit or a lot? Maybe they weren't planning on so much. We obviously know they spent a lot in the summer on Livramento and Hall. Will they have much money to spend? How do you see the January transfer window going? How realistic are you with that? And who would be your number one January transfer target? What position and then what name? As always, we are just a local channel. I say this every single time. Like, follow, subscribe, comment, join in with the conversation. It all helps the channel grow and helps us bring even better content to you. And we'll leave it there until Wednesday.